Hi, in this video I'll show you how to create a tiled recess in your bathroom in an external masonry wall.
Work on tiled recess starts with some careful planning. The bathroom will be tiled with large format tiles, 300 by 600, with the longer edge of 600 going horizontally. I've also laid the tiles out the way that the full tile starts on the bath, and I want my recess to start on the third tile. So the recess will start at 600 millimeters and it will end at 900 millimeters, so it's gonna be a full tile tall. The recess will be centered on the bath and it will be 400 millimeters wide. I will tile a full tile to the right of the recess. Then we've got obviously a full tile below the recess, full tile above the recess going all the way to the corner. It allows me to create a recess that has original edges of the tiles that I'm tiling with around the recess, and that creates a much neater finish. The depth of the recess is going to be about 1 brick deep, which is roughly about 100 millimeters. I'm creating an opening in a brick wall that is going to be larger to the proposed finished tiled niche by around 200 millimeters vertically and around 150 millimeters horizontally to accommodate for 70 millimeters lintel that will create a structural opening, and also for dot and dab dry lining and waterproofing. Opening is created by removal of brickwork and installation of a lintel above the opening. The lintel bearings are 100 millimeters either side of the opening, and the space above and below the lintel is filled with a dry mix of sand and cement. With the lintel installed, it's time to seal the walls with SBR primer mixed with water. The primer has to dry, and once it's fully dry, we can dot and dab moisture-resistant plasterboard to the wall. For that, I'm using Knauf drywall adhesive, and I apply it to the wall only. I find that by applying adhesive to the wall, I'm able to determine the amount required much easier based on how uneven the wall is. You will also notice that I'm fully covering newly created opening with my dry lining. It's not a mistake. It will allow me to create a precise cutout in my dry lining once the adhesive cures. Plasterboard usually gets leveled by tapping it by hand. However, if you ever put too much adhesive, you can use plank of wood and a hammer to put the plasterboard into position. With drywall adhesive cured, I'm marking out my proposed recess. I will mark out the cutout 30 mm bigger in all dimensions. That will give me extra space needed for dry lining, waterproofing and tile adhesive inside the recess. Next, it's time to cut out the plasterboard using plasterboard shark saw. Time to mix a little bit more drywall adhesive, cut some plasterboard strips and dot and dab them inside the recess. Here I have leveled the back of the recess with dry lining, and I'm installing an STS tile backer board on top of it using tile adhesive. With the recess fully dry lined and all adhesives fully cured, it's time for waterproofing. For that, I am using a Mapei shower waterproofing kit that consists of a bottle of primer, a small bucket of liquid waterproofing membrane and a corner waterproofing tape. First, I cut the tape to size. Then I apply liquid membrane to a small part of the recess, stick the tape on top of the liquid membrane and apply more membrane on top of the tape. I go around the recess till all internal and external corners are fully waterproofed. With waterproofing dry, it's time to tile the recess. I start by tiling walls around the recess. My bottom tile is around 20 mm higher than waterproofed dry lining. Here, I'm measuring for my left-hand side tile, making sure that it will overhang the recess by around 20 mm to allow for the thickness of the tile and tile adhesive. Here, I'm leveling the tile to the left of the recess. Next, I install the tile to the right of the recess, and as you can see, it also overhangs the recess by around 20 mm. I made sure of that when I set out my tiling, and this is why careful planning is important. Now we are getting to the tricky part. This is also when use of leveling systems is very helpful. My next tile will have no support to the right hand side as it hangs over the opening. To keep it in place, I will use leveling wedges and also a standard spacer in the right hand bottom corner. With tiling around the niche completed, my next step is to install bottom and top decorative trims. They are cut to the full width of the recess carefully and install on standard tile adhesive. Next, I carefully measure vertical trims to the right and left and mark them for cutting. I install them last, as they will also hold the top trim in place before the tile adhesive fully sets. Tiling inside the recess starts with the bottom tile cut to sit tightly in that space. This tile should not be installed level. There needs to be a slight fall to the outside to make sure that any potential splashes of water can drain away. Second tile that gets installed is the back of the recess. Here I'm using a darker tile for added contrast to the niche. That tile is only cut to length horizontally, as the height of the recess is exactly the height of the tile. As you can see, it fits rather tightly. Then I measure and cut upright tiles and install them on quite a bit of adhesive. This makes it a bit easier to set those tiles in place at correct depth and at 90-degree angle to the wall tiles. Here you can see me dry fitting a tile to make sure it fits nicely. I also use an adjustable square to set them at 90 degrees to the wall tiles. And finally I install the top tile. I cut it 10 mm wider than the finished niche size. In this case I cut it to 410 mm. I slide it to the left and then to the right and rest it on the upright tiles in the niche. This way I can tile the whole recess without any need for additional support to any of the tiles. The last thing I'll do is to make sure that all the tiles are flush with trims, including the top tile. To achieve that, I'm using small tiling wedges. I will also make sure that the back tile is set out the way that all gaps around it are of similar size. Again, I will use spacers or wedges to achieve that. And that's a fully tiled recess, and there's only one more thing to do. Quite difficult actually. Installation of silicone seals to all internal corners. Applying silicone nicely is really a skilled job and could take a whole new video, which I may do in the future. Generally, I apply silicone dry, without use of any spraying. I use Kramer rubber tools to apply it, as it makes the job much neater. I apply silicone in two stages. First, I'll do all horizontal runs. I let the silicone cure, and once it's cured, I apply all vertical runs. I have not yet managed to find a technique that allows for neat installation of a silicone to an internal corner in one go. If there is such technique, please let me know in the comment sections below. And this is a fully finished tiled recess, or a niche if you prefer to call it that. Isn't it pretty and practical? You can put your shampoo there, or a flower if you wish. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please leave a comment. You may want to subscribe too, for more plumbing and bathroom installation videos in the future. Thanks for watching.